right, Catherine, you want to
Okay.
read the roll?
Hetzke,
Here.
Bastian,
Here.
Danicourt,
Here.
Knauer,
Here.
McCord,
Here.
Tidings,
Here.
Nursinger,
Here.
Valentine,
Here.
Sangster,
Here.
Weisar,
Here. Okay. Got minutes?
Overnight.
Overnight. I have my thing in front. Somebody want to?
There's no corrections or anybody see anything you want to point out?
Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve. I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Bastian,
Aye.
Danicourt,
Aye.
Knauer,
Aye.
McCord,
Abstain.
Tidings.
Aye. Okay, our second miscellaneous item of the night is Qdoba. They were before this board, I would say sometime last spring. Came in with an application, this board went through it, approved the project. They have subsequently gone back and have been working on the architectural revisions for their corporate design or corporate logo, corporate look to the building. Obviously that needs to come back to this board for reapproval. We put in your drop what was originally approved and what they're asking for now. First point of note, what we would consider signage is kind of what we went through looking at the eyesight applications, was the eye chart in the back. So any of the big Q up at the top, the face and the star and the other stuff on the side, according to our ordinance, would be considered signage. So at the very least, they would need to go back to the zoning board for an expansion to their signage permit for that, because that doesn't meet our typical standard. They have some other additional signage on the backs and sides. We also included in your drop was your board's adopted design criteria. Is our standard. We can say we haven't updated this in a while, maybe we need to go back to it. But just going through some of the design criteria, we talked about like the exterior of the building, some of the comments they talk about fostering designs have continuity with the best design, traditions and values of the community, consider the relationship to the surrounding neighborhood, and then under architectural design characteristics, there's notes that the board has preference for brick, clear glass on the facade. Facade material should be selected to avoid dreary and also avoid being excessively bold. Brightly colored accent bands located on the building facades that are primarily attention-getting should be avoided. So we do have some stuff in this, the board's adopted design criteria that also may weigh in on your decision. So they're here before us tonight if you have questions of them, but this is what they would like to, this is what you approved. Zach has up, this is what we approved, you approved back in the spring, and then the new rendition is what they're here tonight asking the board to, that's what they'd like to modify their approval to.
Oh, it's not good. Oh, right.
Is it new branding? Is that what happened here?
Qdoba is, from them, they're trying to differentiate themselves from Chipotle and from Moe's. So they went back and came up with this architectural styles standard that they're trying to roll out across the country to show their difference between them and to be different. It's not our typical design. It doesn't kind of follow our typical design criteria architecturally that we have. And as I said initially, the pieces that we would consider signage, this board talked about the eye chart on the back of eyesight that had to go back to the zoning board. That was ultimately denied by the zoning board for that eye chart. But it would be up to this board, one, to make a recommendation about the change in architectural design. You can say, no, we don't like it. We support what we originally approved. We like elements of it, or yeah, we love it, but even at that point, it would still need to go back to the zoning board for modifications to the signage. So we need some.
Is this what's facing Empire Boulevard? That's on
Yes.
that view?
Yep, and then the outside, the patio area would be the piece that's, this is
Bay Road.
Bay Road, thank you, on
Yeah.
the side. going northbound will be on your left. So, thank you, Zach. So that shows the orientation. We're looking at the front from Empire Boulevard, and that little patio area is on the side.
Is the footprint the same, Mark?
They're showing the same footprint of the building, just facade changes of different materials than this board looked at before. And obviously some additional, some metal grating on the outside that they have some of those, what they call them prints, or, you know,
Is the
we
floor,
would consider them signage on the outside.
is the floor plan or the occupancy the same?
Yes. Yeah, they haven't changed anything from what this board originally approved as far as layout or footprint or expansion of the building. They're just asking if you're a facade change, but obviously it's a significant change from what you guys approved before, so that's why we said we needed to bring it back to you guys for your consideration.
What is that material that we're kind of seeing through? Is that like wood slats or?
Wood screens, it's described as, I believe.
Doesn't look right, it's vertical.
No, it's that part there.
They have glazed brick on the bottom, so it's the royal blue glazed.
Clean wood fins, sorry.
And then the other, the street art is on that metal screening that is kind of covering the windows
2 inch by 1 inch by 10 feet.
in the height.
They're just little wooden
burning
slabs.
And then the other,
Burning strips.
the other piece that stood out to me is your architectural design criteria calls for clear glass and open windows, and they're proposing this expanded metal grating or screening would be over the windows, and that's what a lot of that art is on some of them on this
That's
side.
on all the windows?
Not on all of them, on some of them,
Just
but
on the ones with the
that one there, and then
silk
the,
screening or
up
the...
here.
yeah, the printing on that.
I'm sorry, so it's printed on metal on top of the windows? Is
Yes.
that what that, okay.
Wow. It's a big change.
What's your understanding, it says on these prints that the garage door is operable?
I think they're looking, I know they have that in Greece now, they have it at Bar Louie. Like in the summer, they open it up above, so a nice summer day, you can open it up, get some air inside. Kind of opens it up to people coming and going. They have the patio on the outside, but I know some places, Bar Louie, it just has one that has that in Greece, that they kind of open it up in the summertime and then has more free flow access to the outside.
Like a bigger entryway or whatever.
Hose 22, they have it too.
Yeah.
So that's a really significant change. Big moving entrance.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it could be a secondary entrance. They have a door here, so it is a significant change from what you guys approved previously. I mean, we can ask for samples of building materials if you'd like a closer look at them. If you're considering this, we can ask for those. If
Other thoughts? Terry?
My preference, I think, would be to want to approve the right type stuff. Think with this type of facade, I guess.
Let me pull up that one again so you guys can look at it.
do it side by side, possible, or am I gonna kill your resolution?
It's stretching the screen a bit.
I think that's really nice. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I got
I
an
think
idea.
it'll fit in nice in that area.
Set the computer back to
There you
widescreen.
go.
Yeah, there you can kind of see the.
Ugh.
The logo and everything's different.
Yeah. Everything's good.
Mm-hmm.
Just looks like nice. It looks like a classier, like nice restaurant. You know, it's a busy intersection. Gets a lot of
How's that for you
visibility.
guys?
You can pull down.
Thank you.
Can I address the board just to explain a little bit? Is that
It's up to the chairman.
Quickly.
I will very quickly. The main difference is, as Mark lined out pretty well, is that basically Chipotle, Moe's have their own brand, and Qdoba went through an extensive research with an architect to develop this new brand. And basically what they're trying to do is a modern approach to the sophistication, almost like a California look of a Southwestern restaurant. And if you notice what the main difference is, the one on the top is kind of, you see this pretty much every day. It really doesn't have that much of an identity. And the one on the bottom has sustainable materials with the reclaimed wood slats. It actually is a very kind of like, I'll almost call it urban chic in a sense of the look of it, and it's kind of an inviting, different design. It's, obviously the color scheme is to taste, but it's a different approach overall to the concept, and they wanted to have their own brand that is different than the other two. I want to clarify that I'm working on behalf of the landlord, and they're currently paying rent as if they're open. So they want this project to go forward. They literally stopped the works and came up with this new design, because this will be the first one in, I believe, New York State and the area, in the whole country, actually. So this is basically, Penfield would be the first new Qdoba design. So this is the first of what the new design and look is. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that, and if you have any questions.
Okay.
Just want, thanks.
Thanks. Other thoughts?
I like the original.
Doug?
I guess I like the original too, but I understand their point of, trying to make a statement and be unique. And then kind of as an aside, I think the wood slats are impractical in our climate, and they'll look like heck in pretty short order.
I'm wondering if they're, potentially pulverized wood and then sort of put back together since they're reclaimed. Almost like a composite site wood.
Well, that would be even worse. I'm assuming it's solid wood and solid slabs.
Bob?
I like the original design as well. I just wonder if, we could ask, they could take maybe some of the elements of the new design and apply them to the other design, but keep the general look and materials similar. Certainly the lettering of the sign. I don't know, the windows. But I think the original building just looks more substantial, and it's a richer looking building.
Roseanne?
I personally think the first building, it's very corporate-y. So, again, I understand why they want to stand out and do something different. I guess I don't mind the wood look. It's more that purple I'm kind of stuck on. I think it's very bright for that corner. And that, to me, I think that's my biggest hang-up. It's more the color of
the brick?
Of the royal blue brick,
It's a
as they're
glazed
calling
brick.
it.
It's almost going to be like
Like glass, shiny.
glass. Yeah.
Yeah.
Glazed
Tile.
Tile.
I just think somewhere in
something in between.
something in between. I understand getting away from something that actually kind of looks like Chipotle and going to a different look, but this one maybe is not appropriate for that corner.
Okay. I would tend to agree with your assessment the most. And I'm wondering if there's some sort of happy medium in between. I don't like telling people, oh yeah, forget your identity. And I definitely understand the desire to set yourself apart. You wonder if they could get that blue look with lighting or something else that isn't as necessarily permanent.
So a lot of buildings have those wash lights now, or LED lights with
Right.
colors or something that you could do as an after treatment that
For nighttime.
for nighttime if you wanted a different look or style to it that make more sense. I mean, they may want to come back with that. I think that Qdoba is their new, you can see on the border of their stuff, their new signage with the Qdoba look. So, I mean, they could come back for that for signage with the zoning board, but is that, we gotta take a vote or at least give them some direction back of either it's I'm hearing it's a no, we like the original, I'm hearing some, we might like some elements, but I don't want to lead them along too long if,
Yeah, those of you who said you would absolutely like the first one better, would you be interested in looking at something in between, or just stick with the original?
No, I mean, open to a different look.
I'm not opposed if they want to take another shot with something else.
I mean,
It's up to them.
Because they have a kind of standards.
And we should at least let them, if that's the direction, we should at least let them know, okay, what about it?
say, is there any absolute no's? I heard blue brick is,
Yeah,
I don't like the blue, purple, whatever color.
Well, given our standards there, the blue brick is the one thing that
the most bold.
really,
Stands out.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
bold and it doesn't really fit into any, I mean, it's maybe the one thing that would be good to change.
So the wood slats are a little impractical for this
Yeah.
environment, so,
Well, maybe they could
They are,
come
but
back
then
and
you-
say,
but I'm saying,
what they are.
there could be some other material, or anybody have any concerns over the overhead door, or the more of the metal look
I
on the
think the
front?
brushed aluminum look is kind of, it looks like an old service station that's been revamped. That's kind of my opinion. I like the dark,
You liked that?
no.
You don't.
No?
So do we like the yellow
Should ask.
Qdoba? Sounds like we're down to the Qdoba.
Because it wasn't.
Well,
it
Qdoba,
was
it's like-
it
that'd
was
be
a
like
service
telling
station,
McDonald's
so.
not to have.
Yeah, no, that's their
I mean, that to me, it
Yeah,
can't.
Accent, color bricks here and there or something.
Windows signage,
That's
what's it
kind of
called?
a zoning
board
The
thing.
prints. Do you have any
Two corners
preference
or
on those
something.
back to the zoning board, or?
They had a hard
I
time
don't,
with the
yeah, I don't necessarily,
isolate.
Yeah.
I mean, they're different, they're definitely different. I don't personally have a problem with it, but I'm sure the zoning board may. But
Okay, so it sounds like a,
If I may, there's two other color options that I just want to maybe pass around. Just to-
Sure.
There are different blues, and one is the blue-green, which is a little bit more tame of a color. They, usually a little bit more of a coastal color too, the light blue. So there's a couple different options if someone didn't like the purple per se. And quite frankly, what they plan on doing is other towns, when they have they have a couple of different options, so they do look like each town has its own little identity. So if this one wasn't the purple, maybe, some this was a light blue with a blue-green, or, so just to put those out there if you want to see other colors. I apologize.
Well, the light blue goes nice with the wood and the yellow, if we're saying those elements are okay with everyone. At least it's a little easier on your eye and blend in a little bit better. That's my thought.
I haven't heard consensus about
Any of
the
them.
wood slats.
Right.
The brushed metal, the blue brick, sounds like if you want to try again, you're gonna have to significantly revise what you've submitted, otherwise we like the original. Is that
Is that accurate?
I mean, I don't think the board is comfortable with this, is what I'm getting, and I don't think the board is saying you're not it's just a color of changing the tile, it sounds like this is a pretty significant
Pretty radical.
radical,
change.
so either go back to the original or come back with something much more tame or
Color and
standardized.
materials for the brick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the color might make a big difference. I kind of like the darker one. I'd like to see that in the new design. Maybe that would make a big difference.
The darker one.
Darker blue.
So you got one person for the darker, one person for the lighter.
You don't like it at all. 4 people.
What an easy
So
job.
kind of go with color.
I like the architectural styling of the original too, it's just not the color. I think it is a more robust building. It looks more robust, I mean, with the raised entrance on the right side, I think. And I just like it better. That's just me.
The top one is more typical Penfield style and
Yeah.
design. I mean, one of the things we do in our architectural standards is look at,
That's what
Qdoba may not be around forever. I hope they are, but, we've typically classically had buildings that are more of a standard look and design, so they can be repurposed into something else in the future and turn over and, not be so one way or the other.
Yeah. We got our answer.
Okay, and we'd be more than willing to come back with the renderings in different colors so we can take a look at them and see, in the different colors. Because, I mean, you are absolutely right, Doug, is that a color can change completely on how it is. So if that would be amenable to the board to look, because they really are trying to preserve the brand. If we really dilute this to some kind of hybrid in between, then it's just going to be lost in what they're trying to achieve. They're trying to achieve a presence and the brand identity of the building. So if we take the top building and incorporate some of the elements, then it's really, you can see everything from the signage to the materials to everything's completely changed. I mean, it's literally the look has been completely thrown out the window from where it was last year at this time. So that's just for consideration.
Okay. Thanks.
We really have 4 minutes to go, so rather than to jump into something else, we can break. If you want to break at this point and then get set up, so we're ready for our first public hearing, and then we have a few.
Do we need a vote to sign?
Yeah, I guess we take a vote on that one to make sure it's basically.
Send a letter with the voice concerns?
Yeah, that's probably the best thing, to send a letter based on our discussion. If they want to come back in with
Revised.
something revised, we'll take a look at it.
So I make a motion to send a letter to the applicant, no comments.
Second by Doug.
Okay.
Call the roll.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Bastian,
Aye.
Danicourt,
Aye.
Canower,
Aye.
McCord,
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye.
Okay, so we want to take a break and reconvene up at the dais, 7 o'clock. And welcome to the November 13th, 2014 meeting of the Penfield Planning Board. We will start this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, tonight we have 3 items on our agenda. There are two sketch plans and a preliminary and final hearing. Just to go over a little bit about what they are. A sketch plan is kind of an informal review with an applicant by the board for concepts. So they come in with a concept, go over what they're thinking about, and we ask questions. The board will ask questions. Then we open it up to the people in the audience, and then we will ultimately send a letter to the applicant with comments on how we feel about the application. There's no approval or denial. It's just it's an informal review of a project. So we have 2 of those on the agenda tonight. And then we have a preliminary final that will be seeking a decision for, it is an actual application. Once we hear all 3 items, we typically adjourn here and then reconvene in the back of the boardroom. Everybody's welcome to stick around if they wish. We just finish up our business at the end of the night. So, Zach, if you could read the first item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sketch plan application number 1, Passero Associates, 242 West Main Street, Suite 100, Rochester, New York, 14614, on behalf of Midlakes Management, LLC, requests an informal discussion with the board regarding the construction of 33 townhomes with associated site improvements on 32.67 acres. The parcel is located on 1185 Empire Boulevard, 1211 Empire Boulevard, and 41 Woodhaven Drive. The properties are owned by Howitt-Bayview LLC and are zoned LLD and R-1-20. Application number 14P-0032, SBL numbers 108.05-2-8.5, 108.05-2-8.33, and 108.10-1-1.111. Go ahead, Jess.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jess Sudol. I'm from Passero Associates. We're the civil engineering firm representing Mr. Jack Howitt and Hans DeSelms, who are from the Howitt-Bayview LLC. Also, they run Midlakes Management, who are experienced developers in the area. What we're proposing is the development of 33 townhome units. When I say townhome, the way we differentiate townhomes from apartments is there's no stacked living with one unit living over another one. So they're literally almost like single-family patio homes pushed together with a demising wall in between. So, sometimes that definition gets kind of cloudy, so I just wanted to clarify that off the bat. The site is on the south side of Empire Boulevard, kind of across from the Basil's restaurant, but a little bit to the west, actually on the east side of Wilbur Tract Road, which is, a private driveway. The site includes the improvements of approximately 1,000 feet of that private drive, and then the extension of another roughly 1,200 feet up the hill for the proposed townhomes. The area is currently zoned both LaSalle Landing and R-1-15, which permits single-family development. In order to allow the townhomes as currently proposed, what we're proposing to do is approach the project under Town Law 278 with the cluster approval, which I'm sure most of the board members are familiar with. And actually, Mr. Howitt executed a very similar project in the town of Chilai a couple of years ago with, Passero Associates was fortunate to be involved in that. We use the exact same approach for 110 of nearly identical units, which are currently, the second phase of that is currently under construction, and it has been very successful. So I invite all of you to tour that facility if you get a chance to kind of understand some of the project proposal.
Don't mean to interrupt, but where is it in Chilai?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's on Paul Road, just east of the new Wegmans, right off of Chilai Avenue there, in between the Fowler's house and the Wegmans. There was actually a previous proposal for this project, which appeared before the town board earlier this year, which, in addition to the townhomes, it also included some development in the LaSalle Landing District. I'm just going to point that out here. This is about where the zoning line is. Everything in this area is LaSalle Landing. Back here is the residential development. So it was going to be both condominiums in the LaSalle District and then the townhomes. In order, our real passion here is to develop the townhomes. We were just kind of trying to figure out what we could do in the LaSalle Landing District. But, with that amount of units, I think we were looking at an additional 60 units there. There were some concerns with respect to traffic impact. Even though the DOT issued a letter which essentially said that even with the 60 plus R33 wouldn't require any traffic mitigation, that's kind of where it got hung up, and the town board was looking for some maybe more global studies to look at Empire Boulevard to address that many units. So nevertheless, what we decided to do was move forward with just the townhome piece, which is only a fraction of the overall development in the residential area. And there's several reasons why we like this townhome approach. For starters, there's some topography going up there to the south, And by doing the townhomes, we get to kind of step down the hill there and get a nice view out to the bay. Some of the other reasons, and probably much more importantly, why we prefer the 278 in this particular instance, really has to do with impact and all those items that we look at under seeker, water, sewer, and namely in this area, traffic. If you were to develop this as currently zoned with, typical 15 to 20,000 square foot lots with single-family homes, you essentially get the same amount of units, if you will, but you end up with a lot larger population because most of those homes have 3, 4, actually 4 and 5 bedrooms when most of our units have 2s with some 3s mixed in. So in terms of number of people that are actually going to be living here in this development composed to as if it was developed conventionally is a lot less, which translates to a lot less traffic out at Empire Boulevard than if, again, it was zoned with all single-family homes. Also, the demographic of people that tend to live in this development. Now, there's not going to be any proposed restrictions, but it typically tends to be, a lot of young professionals and also a lot of people, a lot of seniors and empty nesters, and, that's what we've really experienced out in Chilai. And, with that type of demographic, you don't get the big families, you don't get a lot of people running out to soccer games and back and school and back, and, there's just not as much in and out in terms of traffic as typically you would expect. We actually did a traffic study for that other project and projected a certain amount of trips when we were going through the seeker process then, and now that it's being built out, it's resulting in far less than we had actually projected at the time. So we think that it's good to consider the 278 for starters with respect to traffic, but there's also some other benefits with this approach. For starters, the development area, the amount of area that's disturbed, the amount of trees that are knocked down, things like that, won't quite be as much with this project because it is squeezed a little bit tighter rather than if you had these big lots where everyone grades up to their lot lines, and they have nice lawns that go up to the lot lines, but the fact of the matter is it kind of gets disturbed property line to property line. But our approach to this is by developing it in this fashion, we're going to be able to try to limit that development area, thus limiting a lot of the impact. One of the other things you might have caught on that I said earlier in the presentation was that we are actually proposing a private road, not a dedicated road. And basically the benefit of that to the town is with a dedicated road, the town ultimately is responsible for maintenance and snow plowing, and after 5 or 10 years, putting a new top coat of pavement down or taking care of sidewalks. And by having that be on the developer, that's a burden that's not necessarily placed on the town. Now, granted, we provide access easements, so if there was ever an emergency, a town could get there. But the fact is, there's less burden, even though there is the tax revenue generated by the project. So that's a big thing that we think is another benefit to the 278 approach. So again, this has been reviewed. It was initially reviewed when the full project proposal was before the town, and then again, we received some comments with just this portion of it. As we work through our preliminary design, we'll have the ability to address those. A lot of them had to do with things like, making sure that we're acknowledging the EPODs on the property, because we do have our fair share. We want to make sure we delineate them, identify them, and then avoid them, where we can. And then there's a lot of technical comments that have to do with things like the geometry of the project and, all those things that we look forward to working out during the preliminary design process. What we're basically trying to do tonight is to gauge kind of the town and some of the neighbors' feelings on this 278 approach with the townhomes as opposed to single-family development, so that we can kind of have the confidence to move forward with spending the big bucks, if you will, in going through the preliminary design process to hopefully execute a successful project. In your application materials, you'll see we've included some of the elevations, some of the initial elevations on what the buildings look like. Obviously, as this progresses through preliminary and final design, we'll provide more detail in terms of building materials, landscaping, lighting, things of that nature. But I think you'll find that Mr. Howitt and his team does do a really top-end job with his product. So, in short, that's essentially it. We'll be happy to answer questions and very much invite any input from the board and community.
Jeff, do you have a drawing of the elevations that everybody could?
I have a smaller one that
see.
was included in the application. I don't have the full-size one with us now. We planned on bringing that at a future date when it was all colored up and looked pretty. But if you refer to this drawing in the application, you'll see it's 2 stories, well done with a mix of different building materials. And I don't expect anyone, except maybe the camera can see it, there to see it. But you'll find it's tastefully done with gables and that.
Zach, is it on the website right now?
Should have been included in your draw.
No, I know. But I'm just saying for.
Architectural, I believe it is on the website.
Okay. So it's available on the website, penfield.org. Right? Okay. Any other questions from the board? Traffic study conducted.
Well, the traffic study was actually conducted by SRF and Associates for 60 condominiums and the 33 townhomes. The results of that study essentially showed that there wasn't any mitigation on Empire Boulevard warranted. Now, I know that there's perception and then there's real life down there, and people travel way in excess of design speeds. It is a dangerous situation for a lot of people up and down on Empire Boulevard. But the fact of the matter was there wasn't enough volume with that original proposal to warrant any kind of turn lanes or traffic signals or anything like that. Since the development has been significantly scaled back, there's no reason to believe that the findings wouldn't be essentially the same, which is, no mitigation is warranted. By making it smaller, we're not going to trigger anything, as if, to the contrary of that, if we made it bigger, you might all of a sudden bring in the need for a turn lane or something like that. But, as this board is familiar, in order to get signal lights, in order to get turn lanes, you have to meet certain warrants with certain volumes, which with this type of development, as currently proposed, we don't even come close to meeting.
With all the additional traffic from the other project across the street, though.
Yeah, and that includes the additional traffic going east and west. In that case, they actually warranted the installation of that turn lane that now goes from Basil's all the way up to the top of the hill. But even with those volumes, what really drives the need for the turn lane is largely the amount of turning volume, which is somewhat independent of what's going on the rest of the roadway, although it does consider what's called advancing and opposing traffic. But the real big one is, cars taking that left in, and there's only, a handful that, would, so.
So for your conventional plan, you used the 2 or 3 or 4 parcels to the north and northwest. What's the proposal for that land? I mean, typically, when you're proposing a cluster development, that would be open space. So is that the assumption we ought to make, is that's going to be open space?
Yeah, I think what we're referring to is this cluster plan. Again, there was different title back here, so some historical other people looking at it. But the idea is up there on that knoll, which is an area that could feasibly, someone could get to it by an extension of the roadway here. But quite frankly, we have no interest in doing that. So it would be, open space, left forever wild. There's a possibility of donating to the county to extend their park, but, we don't have any intention of developing on that area. Again, that's up here in the northwest corner.
Okay, what about the other couple parcels there? There's one, you've got lot number 26. What would happen there?
26? That would actually ultimately become the home of our stormwater management area. It's
Okay.
down on the bottom of the hill there, and, there's some wetland buffer that goes around it, so it would fit in, as those wetland areas or those stormwater management areas ultimately become extensions of wetlands and wetlands themselves, so it would fit in nicely there.
So other than the one parcel with the, what used to be apartments there, everything's going to be open space or the stormwater management?
Yes.
Okay.
Could you describe to the south end the emergency access and how that would be configured?
Sure. Right
going to
now,
the south?
I know it's Woodhaven, and I forget the name of the other road here, but that whole development is on essentially only has one means of ingress, and it's a long dead end, which could potentially pose a problem with emergency access if that access was ever blocked. So as part of this project, what we would propose to do is, and we have yet to work out the exact specifics, but essentially extend a paved area to our property line and put it under easement, which is the best that we can do, of 12 or 15 foot wide, and put it under an emergency access easement so that emergency vehicles, if they ever had to, once this project was developed, could access those homes by going through that small emergency area. Then we'd also put a crash gate on it. What we don't want to do is promote traffic through there because, I know most of these homeowners are aware of the situation on Empire Boulevard, but there is a chance we'd promote traffic through our development and put more traffic on Empire, which we certainly want to do. But what we are going to do is provide a means for emergency vehicles to get through there and get to the areas to the south. And we've already begun those preliminary discussions with town staff on what exactly that might look like.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board this time? Okay, I'd like to open it up to the audience. Anybody care to comment on this application? If you could come up to the podium and please give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Ralph Melio. I live at 43 Woodhaven Drive, and my primary concern is the area of my property that is currently where the access road, where Passero Road is.
That's your,
My
It's in
home
your
is
backyard
right
or next to
adjacent
it?
to Passero Road. As far as the development itself is concerned, both my wife and I are in favor of it. We have no, right now, what I look at, since Mr. Pecora died, he used to clean out the area periodically. Now it looks terrible. The town's not interested in the property to become forever wild and make it into a park. Someone needs to develop that land, and while I'm living there, I hope it gets developed. I know my neighbors are concerned about Passero Road. I, for one, would not want that opened. My big concern is this. If it's going to be, the town has the easement, and I understand that there is a concern right now with regards to emergency vehicles, being able to get in there in the event, because we're landlocked, if there is a fire, if there is a problem. But in the 40 years that I've lived there, not one ambulance nor one fire truck ever came up that road. Quite frankly, I've offered to my neighbor, Kevin, next door, to actually help him just cover it over with dirt, plant grass on it. God forbid if there's ever a problem and you have to go down there, go ahead. Go on down there. But I don't really want to see it asphalt coming up from that crash gate all the way up to Woodhaven Drive where we live. I understand that the town wants a way of getting in there. I, for one, don't want to see blacktop. I think if Dr. Howitt has a great idea to develop that area, I understand that what he's going to have there is going to make, it's not going to interfere with any of our views. If anything, it's going to enhance the entire area. It'll be something that will be a benefit to the town. It'll increase the tax base, help with the overall revenue coming to the town. And so basically that's my concern. Thank you.
I think part of the, that emergency access is also so that if there is some type of problem, say closer to Browncroft, where the road is blocked off and somebody needs to get out, or the neighbors need to get out, that access would be used to help everybody get out too. So, someone else, yes, sir, if you could come up and give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Vern Lovelace, 19 Old Westfall Drive. My concern is this going to be on a slab or is this going to have basements underneath it? They're going to have basements? If the last developer, Galel, was talking about doing it on slab because of the problems of the nature of the fill. We all have watched, all the residents there have watched Fino fill that in up to 40-some feet with various road detritus and 50-gallon drums and anything you can't imagine has been put in there. And one of the concerns when the Galel project was going in was entering into that dirt and finding things that they did not anticipate. And I understood that there was some problems when they did do test not drilling, but test holes in there, finding things that were kind of unsurly. And I'm wondering if this has been looked at by Dr. Howitt and his group. Have you found these types of material?
I can address all the questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's a very good point. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience care to count? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Hi, Lawrence Sy. I live at 43 Wilbur Tract Road. And I am the owner of all this property that's directly to the south right down here. Several hundred feet of wooded property that butts up to this. And I live on Wilbur Tract, which obviously is right down at the bottom, so I drive down through here every day of my life. I have no other option but to go through that way. I can't avoid whatever gets put down there. I'm concerned for what gets put down there and how close it may be to my property line. I have a question. How close can property be, something like this be built to somebody else's line?
There are setback codes based on the zoning ordinance, and all those things will get reviewed and checked. And if they're closer than is allowed, then they need to go to the zoning board for a variance for that setback.
Do we, we don't know what is allowed? We don't know what that amount is right now?
Do you know the R-115? This is R-115, isn't it?
Both the same, it's okay. Yeah, the side setbacks for R-120, R-115, they're both 10 feet
10
from the
feet.
property line.
Okay. When we had the last meeting here and we talked about this, it was brought up that the people up on top here are on septic systems and they leach down this way. And they go through this whole region, this whole area down in here, which is all sloped down toward the wetlands down here. What does the board think of that? I mean, does that obviously concern people that are here? I mean, that leach beds could go underneath these units, 17, 16, especially 15, 14, the ones up near the top, but even the whole area. I'm concerned about it. I wonder here what kind of impact it's going to have on the stability of these places. I wondered, was any further study done on that?
Yeah,
We'll have him address all the comments once everyone's spoken, but all those items, engineering staff takes a look at it, so there will be definitely a thorough review about it. Zach, if you have.
I can actually address that question. Next year, we'll be installing sanitary sewers through those roads. So septic should not be an issue once that's functioning.
Okay. But the existing septic would still be there. I mean, obviously the effluent and everything that's there or whatever, however it's, leached over the years and all that, that still exists, it's going to be there.
Correct, and that'll have to be addressed when they come back for a preliminary and final application.
I know I heard the gentleman here say how the old proposal, which was a little bit more elaborate and included apartment buildings that were down in this area here. What I'm wondering, what's the plan for this area down in here where those apartment buildings were planned for before? What's the current plan for that now? For that piece of property there?
There are none.
I'm sorry?
there are none.
There are none?
No plans other than what's shown right there.
It could be added at a later time though. Okay.
Nothing else
That's
planned.
a possibility. Right now, that's the proposed plan on the table.
Okay. And I don't want to, go on to a big rant here about traffic and safety issues, but having spent my whole life living down on that road, we've seen some carnage, and we've seen some things before. I was born and raised back in that valley. We've seen fatal accidents, and we've seen other things out on that highway. Right now, they haven't even opened up these new units yet that are up the hill. They're still working on them, but they have the turning lanes in. And I don't know what it is. It's strange. When you're driving up Empire now with those lanes and stuff, it's got a feel. It isn't right. I don't know. I can't describe it. I question how that turning lane is going to keep that safe up there when there's all these people that live up there are going to be using that road. And I know how bad it is now. I just had a couple of weeks of vacation here recently where I was home. Normally I don't drive my road and I don't go in and out that entrance very much during the daytime, but I was during that, and I just couldn't believe how it's so bad getting in and out of there. There are times when you wait 60 seconds or longer for an opportunity to dart out into traffic to get in and out of that road. the last meeting we were up here, a lot was brought up about that because, we started to get in actually hash about some of the things that we had seen over the years and stuff like that. It's a major concern of those of us that live back there. And I just question how, putting all these units down there, the impact that that's going to have, it's not going to help things any bit at all. I gotta agree with what Mr. Mealy over here said at one point. He'd like to see that land developed at one point. I guess I would too, provided it's done tastefully and it's done right. And it just seems like townhouses and putting them there when you've already got all these new units that are just going in just a couple hundred yards up the hill are over the top. Maybe what I could envision maybe would be I could just see some single family homes up there, a handful of them, expensive homes, nice homes. The developers, the investors here could make some money off of selling those lots, selling those homes. The homes could provide some tax revenue. There's a minimum of impact of people using that highway there. There's no need for a crash gate up top. They could use floating basements, or whatever it would take to be on that filled land up there to be safe. It could be tasteful and it could be reasonable. A reasonable use for that land. I'm also in favor of something that's reasonable. I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure I like it, and I'm obviously very, very affected by it, being that close to my land. So, those are my concerns at the moment. I'm going to let somebody else take it now, I guess.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else like to speak? Follow-up questions from the board before Jeff?
Yeah.
Jeff, do you want to address some of the comments?
Sure. I'll kind of go down through a couple of them that as they came along there. One of the things that, what we'll do is work closely with town staff and the fire marshal and others to work out the logistics of that connection there at the top of the road there. One of the things we, are looking into potentially offering is there are pervious paver systems now which can be built, which provide the, loading requirements to support vehicles, but they're not, a sea of asphalt. They can have different types of vegetation, that type of thing growing through them. Now with them, there's also maintenance concerns. So again, we'll have to work out the specifics of that, but we hope to present that to you when we come back here next time. That's certainly an option that we will be looking at. In terms of potential fill soils on site, an experienced developer such as Mr. Howitt wouldn't even contemplate buying and developing this type of project unless he has done his homework in terms of phase 1 environmental studies, in terms of geotechnical engineering, really analyze the soil stability as well as make sure there's not any hidden landmines, if you will, in there. So, a lot of that work has been done already as part of the due diligence phase, and, we can share information, as it's requested by the town board. In terms of the separation requirements, there is a large wetland and floodplain that does separate us from a lot of our neighbors there. Even though, this whole area is a significant amount of separation, it does kind of tail out here to the south. But even in those areas, we would never contemplate putting a building, 10 feet to the property line. There would still be some generous separation there. I think as currently proposed, we have at least 30 to 40 feet. So we would look to respect that and, try to maintain that buffer there and not build to the absolute minimum that we're allowed by the design standards. And, in terms of traffic, we've talked about the traffic a lot. I think that this is a great improvement because it reduces the number of trips. It's a lot less than what was previously contemplated here. It's less than what could be developed as of right. I understand that, a couple of single-family homes might develop less traffic, but quite frankly, with all the improvements that are required to improve Wilburtech Road, to build a new road up into this area, to extend all the utilities, just a couple of homes would never support it. If it was developed as single-family home, it would be like most of the other subdivisions you see here at the town, not all of them, but where they basically, develop to the minimum lot size allowable, and that would be the same amount of units as we have here, which would be, more impactful. So if there was any others I missed, I'd be happy to address them. And
Comments from? Okay, thank you very much for your presentation.
thank you. Have a good night.
And we'll discuss this, and the next step would be us drafting a letter and sending it off. So probably in the next week.
Okay.
You'll see response.
We look forward to it. Thank you again.
Thanks.
Jack, want to read our second agenda item?
Sketch plan application number 2, Timothy Hens, 7319 Quinlan Road, LeRoy, New York, 14482, on behalf of Dr. Rahul Renjen, requests an informal discussion with the board regarding the construction of a 3,275 square foot orthodontist office with associated site improvements located at 2124 Penfield Road on 0.53 acres. The property is now or formerly owned by Gordon Griffin and is zoned business non-retail. Application number 14P-0033, SBL number 139.08-1-6.
Good evening. Tim Hens. I'm a professional engineer working with Dr. Renjen on the development of his orthodontist practice. The proposed facility is located at the corner of Penfield Road and Harris Whalen Park Road. Single-story wood frame structure, replacing the existing residence in that area. Again, the lot's about a half-acre lot. It is a fairly small lot, but we are proposing a few things, primarily the use of a rear access road to access the rear of the lot so that traffic can come in off of Harris Whalen Park Road rather than Penfield Road. And the lot is currently zoned BNR, and it also is in the Penfield Overlay District, as well as the lots going west of the corner that we're developing. So the plan would be to develop an access road at the rear of the property, basically adjacent to the park, so that if lots are developed further west of us, traffic may use that access road. So the lots are all accessed from the rear rather than from Penfield Road to address traffic concerns. Basically a pretty straightforward project, basically a professional office building to be used as an orthodontist office. Should fit in with the character of the neighborhood, and I'll take any questions.
The center peaked part, I probably should know the.
It's basically an atrium.
What it's called, but
it's a two-story atrium, but it is a single-story space. It's basically the entry to the building, reception area, waiting area. There's an internet bar, a small children area. Basically, the center of the office complex will have treatment rooms to one side, office and lab work to the other side.
And then the other question I have on the sketch to the right, doesn't look like, unless the windows are obscured by that tree, are there as many windows there as there are on the eastern elevation? Because that's the side that'll face Penfield Road, correct?
That is correct. I think there is one more window in that's obscured by the tree. It would be really big, basically, in that area. That is the view from Penfield Road here on the right, and this would be the view from the intersection on the left. I do have some additional drawings that I can hang up real quick here. Let's see if this will stay in here.
And then you'd be asking for some setback variances, I think, for the front and the side.
That's correct. Again, it is a fairly small. It is a fairly small lot. I don't know if this will stand up or not. I can move them around, but I'll just hold it. This is basically a view. If you were standing in the park, this would be the access road at the rear of the lot, the north side of the lot, and basically looking from the park to the back of the building. Parking lot would be behind the building, and again, this is the atrium in the center of the building. So there's a small patio area. Doctor is proposing to have basically an outdoor waiting area. You know, if kids are dropped off getting orthodontic work, they've got a place to wait for parents to pick them up outside. landscaped, blended in pretty well. Again, as you stated, the lot would require setbacks from both Penfield Road and Harris Whalen Park Road. And we are putting together an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals to deal with those variances.
Okay. How about lighting? What type of lighting do you propose?
Put it right here for you. We are proposing mostly wall-mounted lighting on the building, but we do have, we have 2 parking lot lights. Everything will be LED, low-impact lighting. We have done a photogrammetric layout, keeping the lighting on the site and keeping the spillover effect basically to null.
Full cutoff fixtures and
Yep.
so on. And regarding the parking, I know you have enough parking spaces that meet code. Do you need all those spots? Or, I mean, I think we're in the process of, or the town is in the process of reviewing all the codes and parking requirements are one of the items among many that they're looking to evaluate and possibly change. Not going higher, but potentially going lower.
Right.
And is that something that you need all those parking spots, or?
My opinion is that the code requires more than we're going to need. Right now, we've got it laid out to have 17 parking spaces, and I believe the code actually would require us to have either 20 or 21. The preference would be to have, less rather than more.
Okay. Okay. Doug, you look like you had a question?
So have you seen the comments from the Development Review Committee?
I did.
On this?
Actually, I responded. They should have gotten them today via email. We basically had, I think, positive responses to all the questions that were raised. I know one of the issues that was asked was, do we have plans for stormwater treatment? Our plans are to keep all of the stormwater we create on site. We recommending the use of porous pavement system for the parking lot, as well as 2 dry swales, basically one along Penfield Road between the sidewalk and the building, and another along Harris Whalen Park Road between the sidewalk there and the building, so that we could treat the runoff from the from the building itself, and then also anything that doesn't get treated in the parking lot it's through the porous pavement. So just trying to think of some of the other comments that were on the.
A couple that I had in mind. The parking is very close to the property line to the west, and
Right.
so I'm interested in what you're planning on doing there. If you are going to have it that close to the property line,
We are
Can you
we're going to
start
entertain
showing-
grading releases from the adjacent property owner just to deal with any temporary disturbance during the construction process.
and I'd like to see what is over there that you're going to be affecting. Show that on the site plan.
Yep, we can show that for sure.
And then on the north side, the parking next to the road, are you planning on some kind of green between the parking and the road?
I think the preliminary guidance we received was to have the parking right up against the access road, but we're willing to entertain a separate, creating a landscape buffer between the road and parking. That would just require us to move the parking a little bit further south toward Penfield Road, which it shouldn't be an issue. And I think one of the other comments that was made during the PRC was the sidewalk space between the parking lot and the building. We're showing a 5-foot space with a landscape strip, and I think the comment asked for a 7-foot sidewalk. That can be accommodated. We would just be moving the building further east. We're already asking for a setback variance on that side. We would just be moving the building basically 2 feet further, closer to Harris Whalen Park Road.
And Roseanne?
What's the overall square footage of the proposed building?
The building itself right now is 3,275 square feet.
How many planned patient rooms are there going to be in the building? Is it just one orthodontist or more?
It is.
Yeah.
One? Just you? Okay.
And I think we had 6 treatment rooms?
Yeah.
6 treatment rooms in the facility.
How many staff members?
Well, initially there'll be probably 3, and then as I grow, I potential add 4, a total of 4 to 5 at the most, and that'll be years from now.
That's plus you?
That's an addition to me, yeah. So probably 5, including me.
Okay.
What days and hours of operation do you,
It'll be a full-time practice, so I'll be there every day basically from...
Do you mind, I know we just started asking you questions. Can you come up and
Oh, sure.
introduce yourself? And
Hi, I'm Rahul Renjen, and to address the question, it'll be a full-time practice. I'll have mostly during business hours. Occasionally, parents like to bring their kids after school, so I'll have some hours in the evening as well to accommodate that, but nothing beyond probably 6 or 7 o'clock.
Monday through Friday, Monday through
Friday.
Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, Saturdays
Okay.
are always tough, but again, I'm a new practice, so whatever suits my patient population is, what I'll do. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Bill?
What about snow storage in the wintertime? You have to plow the parking lot. Where would you put the snow?
That was one of the comments that was addressed in the review, but we will show a snow storage area on the south end of the parking lot. There's plenty of open space here to push snow into.
Okay. And what about any exterior dumpsters or waste management, garbage cans, things like that?
Right now, we're not planning for any dumpsters. I believe we're going to. We have a small storage area adjacent to the building for the trash totes.
Closed?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Anyone in the audience care to comment on this project? No? Okay. Nice presentation. We will discuss it, get you a letter, probably next few days, week, something like that.
Okay. Thank you for.
Nice job.
Thank you for having us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Zach. Third item.
Application number 3, Walt Baker, DSB Engineers and Architects, PC, 2394 Ridgeway Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14626. On behalf of Peeler Jaguar Land Rover, requests under Article 3-3-10 and Article 9-9-2 of the Code for preliminary and final site plan and EPOD permit approval for the construction of a 3,000 square foot off-road test track for vehicle demonstrations located with associated site improvements at 770 Panorama Trail South on 3.78 acres. The property is now or formerly owned by Vision 2 LLC and is zoned GB. Application number 14P-0031. SBL number 138.08-1-47. Go ahead, Walt.
Good evening, Walt Baker with DSB Engineers and Architects. As stated, we are here tonight for the Vision Peeler test track, demonstration test track. As the board may recall, we were in last January with a similar application, but at that point we had the test track shown. This thing's gonna slide. We had the test track shown off the existing pavement over in this area here, and as the board well knows, it's not going to was going to impact the floodplain on the side of the creek, Rondequoit Creek. So we relocated that, and it's actually located now on the corner of the pavement in this area right here. And in doing that, we're actually going to be decreasing the inventory parking by 13 spaces based on the vehicles being double and triple stacked in that corner. So it in our ratio for requirements for the code for the general business is 84 spaces, and we have 124 spaces. So that's the new count after the 13 cars were reduced on site. So it's not working, is it?
So you still have enough, more than enough for code.
Yeah, we have more than enough than code requires, and I don't want to fight with it. There we go. Now it won't move.
Just won't have as much
We
selection.
need better magnets. Yeah. So we did submit in the package what the site is going to be, the test track is going to be constructed of. We would remove the asphalt pavement that's there presently down to the stone base, because obviously underneath parking lots, there's a stone base. That stone base will stay, and we'll build the hill, if you will, the incline with more select stone and fill, and then we're going to put what the detail shows, it's called a Pennsylvania fieldstone, and that'll be set in mortar. I'm sure the board has seen other test tracks. There's one down in Henrietta that they use for the vehicles to demonstrate how the Land Rover and that type of vehicle can climb the incline, which is probably 25% incline. So, but it won't be done with the prospective buyer alone. It'll be done only with a trained sales representative will be in the vehicle with them when they do it. And in the evening off hours, it's going to be blocked off with vehicles. They'll put a Land Rover on the entrance and the exit side, so there's no unauthorized use during off hours. I did bring a couple photographs of the site because we did receive comments from the staff regarding site lighting. We're going to keep the existing lighting that's on site now, so we're not proposing any additional lighting. There was a comment about landscaping, and the site has been landscaped. It's obviously these photographs were taken recently, so you know, with the leaves off the trees, little bare tree syndrome. But you can see that we do have a series of decorative trees all along the front of the property, and so we're really not proposing any additional landscaping.
I think the comment was more directed toward maybe some low-growing shrubs or something to soften the look of the sides of the test track, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, in the area of the test track, right. Well, as you can see, the test track, we're going to have the split rail fence, obviously, just for the safety, so you're going to see that split rail fence kind of demarcating the area. If you'd like, I guess we could work with the town staff and see Mr. Peeler would introduce maybe some kind of low shrubs. We don't want to have anything, obviously, to block the view of the demonstration track or the display vehicle. So,
right,
you know, something maybe that could be maintained at a low 18 or a 2-foot height, something like that.
Well, what's it, about 10 feet high, maybe?
Correct, yep.
So you could really have something on that slope or something that kind of softens that front concrete Pennsylvania bluestone.
Fieldstone, yes.
Mortared
yes.
mass.
Should look rather nice. It's going to be kind of multicolored, you know. It's fieldstone. It's not a slab of concrete.
The back side of this, or actually the road side of it is...
The entire thing will be the fieldstone, correct.
But it's a pretty steep wall.
Yes, yes
almost,
it will. Right,
That,
right.
Ivy. What do you think, Doug? Ivy.
It would have to be.
I'm sorry?
It would have to be if you're going to plant that side of it, but...
Right. No, we can't, yeah, because you're not going to grow plants on the side of it. I mean, if anything, it would be adjacent to it, you know, at grade level.
Well, is that the same company that did that one in Henrietta? Actually, I went out and looked at it. Is that
Yes.
the same company too that does it?
Exactly, right, yeah.
Any other questions from the board? I don't know if we interrupted you. Were you
No,
done?
I'm fine, yeah. We looked at this again back in January, so we just relocated the site. At that time, there was actually going to be like 2 inclines, and we've reduced the size, the mass of it, so it's a single incline with the side slope obstacle is here versus just going over the top instead of having 2. The length of it, we've shortened it up from approximately 95 feet down to 45 feet.
Okay. Any other questions? Anyone in the audience care to comment on this application? No one? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Baker.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Oh,
one question.
Yeah.
What's the schedule for getting this done, assuming you get approval?
Well, we don't need asphalt plants, as you well know, they're closing. So this is going to be, as I mentioned, it'll be the select material and gravel, so once that's in place, he could do it right away. And barring frozen temperatures, mortared set field stones. And so they'd like to get it put together as soon as possible. And a split rail fence, of course.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you.
We will call this hearing closed and take a brief recess. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Seriously, I think that having some uplights or ground-mounted landscape lights on a vehicle at night would be kind of cool looking.
You
Help
park
sell
the vehicle
cars.
up on it?
Yeah, park a vehicle up on there and highlight it with some, I bet they'd sell a lot more Range Rovers.
Should get a commission on that if that happens.
Yeah, every vehicle.
But what if they have a few more breakage because of?
Yeah. Any other comments on that? I know we have we put together a draft approval if we.
The standard approval template was in your drop along with the Part 2 EAF for it. So the staff's biggest question and concern was just adding a little landscaping to it, just to kind of tie it in with the site, just so it didn't look like it was kind of plopped down in the corner, whether that's through grasses or plants, you know, if the board wants to, so if supportive of it, condition it upon Bruce's review and approval, we can do that, or if Doug has some thoughts or recommendations. But that was our biggest thought, at least from staff. Originally, we had concerns about it being in the floodplain. We've shown it's out of the floodplain. I think we ought to memorialize in our resolution as well that they're losing those 13 spaces, just so that at some time in the future, Peeler Pontiac or Peeler Jaguar is no longer there,
and somebody wants them back.
Somebody wants it back, we can just show that that was taken out. They are still in compliance with our code. They're okay with losing those 13 spaces. It's not impacting their business, but sometime in the
Somebody else
future,
could add them
if they
back
want to
in.
take it out, they can put those back in. So we, if the board's supportive of installing that, we at least, should memorialize that they did have those spaces originally, and that was part of the application.
Comments, thoughts?
I think we should condition the approval with that landscaping. And if you wanted some front lighting, whatever you want to call it.
Good look at it.
Do you want to require the lights, or just say the board is okay with lights?
Supportive of lights, but not
Supportive of
condition
more?
it on the lights?
I think, so if they give them the option, if they don't want to light it and they don't want to make an attraction,
right,
that may not be a bad thing, or if they want to highlight it, the board
Yeah, I don't
is,
want to require.
the board is supportive of landscaping lights, or, if they wanted to at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Over?
Sure.
Is there going to be grass around the base of the thing where there's pavement now?
Yeah, we'd cut that pavement out, so we'd end up with the radius on the outside edge instead of being squared off, which it is now. So that area would be just grassed in. But if we do some kind of landscape, maybe some, like you said, maybe some grasses or something like that, where we could hide a couple uplights or something. That would be nice.
Yeah, I think that would soften it. And
Say where it's 10 feet high, if you had a grass.
Some
that
of
was
those tall
4 to 6
grasses
feet
that
high
go
or
up like
something.
6 or 8 feet.
Yeah, it wouldn't
Yeah,
hide the
decorative grasses.
red, just kind of,
Well, we do have where it goes, it goes up and it goes back down again, so you have that area where you could.
make it look like the savannah or something.
Yeah.
I think it's actually going to
Would
look
have
pretty
had
good.
Jaguars.
Right.
It's actually going to look pretty good. It's all natural stone, so I think it's going to look nice the way it is, but a little bit of landscaping would help.
we saw from the Henrietta location, and Terry went out there and looked at it, it just kind of looked like it was a landscape feature, not just a test track on its own. It kind of blended in as being part of the landscape element. And I thought the grasses and the plants kind of.
Yeah.
Golden
Star. Sorry.
Maybe a waterfall coming out the side.
It still has this split rail fence, it has the stone, it has everything else, just with some shrubs and grasses down below and plants behind it, just kind of looked like it was part of the landscaping of the site.
That little
Mountain goat on one side of the
Maybe one of those horses that's all decorated up.
The board does have.
It's not even 8 o'clock yet. I'm not getting goofy.
The board does have a draft approval resolution and as well as a draft Part 2 EAF.
So I'm going to make the motion to approve the EAF.
Okay.
Second.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Bastian,
Aye.
Danicourt,
Aye.
Canower,
Aye.
McCord,
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye. Make the motion now to approve the application with the other elements we've requested.
Condition down landscape.
Second list?
All
Okay, Hetzke,
Sorry.
Aye.
Bastian,
Aye.
Danicourt,
Aye.
Canower,
Aye.
McCord,
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye.
Oh,
You know, it is an unwritten rule, you know.
You're on the
Right guy.
All right, Roseanne, you get the next one.
I'll bring my dog over to visit
We'll
Yeah.
add those things into the resolution, Walt will get that out to you, but it sounds like we'll just be adding some.
Sounds good, yeah, the site's
Conditions
finally
related.
got the architecture all done, and, the signage is up, it's looking pretty good. You got the leaping cat on the roof, and.
Yeah, it looks good.
I don't know how they're doing that sale,
Looks good.
but. Looks good.
Winter should be interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Walt,
Sure.
thanks.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Walt.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Just work backwards or?
Yeah, let's go backwards. Why not?
Orthodontist?
Yeah. Well, it's fresh in our mind. Anybody have any issues with that? You know, all these sites along that stretch are challenging. So,
I think what's left the zoning board, there's quite a few variances here.
Is it 3, side, front, and parking?
And then if they're gonna go for any sort of signage
So possibly
variances,
4.
they're only, at this point, they've only said they wanted that one ground-mounted corner signage, but I think they're thinking short-term, long-term. Once that road is developed, you would want some, at least a pedestal sign or signage in the back of the building as you're driving down, UG, you have the other ones.
But
Want to identify what it is on the back of the building and.
I was thinking more of the
Signage.
front setback. Are there any other buildings that are that close to the road?
On the front, we just approved UG at 35 feet, just down the road. So that was
Yeah,
just the
doors
most.
down, maybe? 3 doors down?
Yeah, it's about 4 buildings down. We just approved at 35 feet. We also approved, eyesight, I believe, is at 35 or 38, somewhere in there.
What's the front
35.
setback on this?
35.
I think it's showing
Says
35.
35.
So they're pretty.
So it's
It's
a
gonna be pretty
consistent.
consistent.
Yeah.
I think when you're pushing the parking to the back, we're requiring a rear access drive, you're kind of forcing into that. So the one comment that they referenced and we had, our design criteria requires a 7-foot sidewalk when you're up against parking. So that's going to increase their variance to Harris Whalen Park Drive. I believe they're 25 feet right now. That'll take them down to 22 or 23. Is the board supportive of that increase in order to make sure that we get a 7-foot walk in?
I'd rather
Zach's
see
got
the
the hand on
sidewalk
it.
and an extra 3 feet of.
They're showing green space in the front on Harris Whalen, they're showing green space on Penfield Road, and that was the intent of the town board when they rezoned this, was to push the parking to the back, push the buildings forward, get more green on Penfield Road.
The zoning board's been pretty agreeable and pretty understanding of all these developments going, they have to be. or it's-
I mean, you're redeveloping what was residential property to commercial property, you have to meet
Yeah,
the
they've been
parking.
accommodating setback variances, parking, I forget what other variances the other two have gotten.
So I guess that's the first question. It sounds like the board is supportive of the variances they're requesting. So we have
Yes.
the setbacks from both sides. We have not only the number of parking spaces, but we have the parking stall size. again, we're changing our code from 9x20s to 9x18s. We haven't done it yet. So they're showing 9x18s at staff's recommendation, but that is a variance in order to fit that in. So
9x18s, and then how wide is that aisle?
24-foot wide aisle. So you'd have, and then it's a 20
What
foot
if we-
access in the.
What if we encourage some land bank parking? You know, maybe they build out 14 spots or something like that. If he's gonna have a total of 6 people down the road working there, so there's 6 vehicles. If you add another 6 for patients, and there's 12. So if you had 14, we get rid of 3 spots. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense, but
I can let them know the board's supportive of. I mean, we
Yeah.
did that with eyesight.
I think, yeah, I mean,
They-
I think it's a nice development, a nice
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd look nice on that corner.
It would look very nice, the way the
Nice
building is
statement.
shaped and everything, yeah, the landscaping, the building itself.
the only thing that I thought on the structure of the building, if there were a couple little windows on the sides of that atrium,
Oh, at the top?
yeah, you know, yeah, in the
Oh,
front.
Like right there.
Right there?
Right here? Up above. Yeah, right
Oh,
there.
up there.
Can ask.
You know what I mean? They'd just take away some of that
Siding.
siding
Yeah.
mass.
And we still wonder what mountain range that is in the background.
Those are the mountains of what they do.
Can you see the water tower there at Harris Whalen Park?
That's Harris Whalen Park. Sledding hill.
There's a water tower back
Yeah,
there.
it's sledding hill.
The water tower looks just like a distant mountain, wow. How do they do that?
I can't remember, Mark, where are the existing sidewalks along there?
There's existing sidewalks on Penfield Road.
Yes.
There's also an existing sidewalk that's directly abutting Harris Whalen Park Drive. We've talked to them about moving it back. It is right up against the road. We have plans hopefully to widen Harris Whalen Park Drive sometime in the future, that we could actually get a 2 exit lanes, one left or straight and one right turn lane. So that would necessitate moving that curb back a little bit, which we had in on the Key Bank application. They had two properties, so they were moving the curb back. We thought it was a little bit too much to ask of one property to do that, but at least if they move the sidewalk back to where Zach is showing the hand, it gets it out of there and it opens that space up, so if and when we ever get to the point where we want to move that curbing back, it's not then displacing the sidewalk.
Okay.
So then it gets a little bit more green between there and the road, so if somebody's walking out, they're not on the, right on the back edge of that curbing.
For this access road, which of course eventually will continue farther, who would be responsible for, because the school is there, for like a crosswalk or signage or something around that road just from a safety point of view?
Yeah, I mean, right now they're kind of showing the sidewalk going through that driveway area, so we can either clarify to either stripe it as a crosswalk.
Either could be one of those.
On that side,
That's a good
or
idea.
Possibly one of those humps.
Speed hump?
or it could be a textured, like a little cobblestone or something, textured,
Something like
stamped
up in-
concrete or something that would
What
kind
was
of.
it that
Like
they were
up in
talking about
Webster?
at Baytown?
At the mall there?
A table or a,
I think a little.
Top walks?
I think that might be a little.
Speed table.
yeah.
That might be a little close to the intersection to do a speed table, just because you
Yeah.
turn and you kind of go over.
Oh.
But if you did you could do a texturized, either concrete or pavement, that at least it gives you.
And it's all dentists. I mean, they're all rich and they drive in those Ferraris and stuff, both parents. That might
Here?
be a trouble.
Land
Yeah, but
Rover.
how much foot traffic is with the school there? Because they're all young elementary kids, they're not walking to and from school, are they?
Some maybe.
No.
You never
Some
know.
of the older
Most of the school
ones
bus.
might go over to Wegmans.
Yeah,
I don't
lunchtime.
I think it goes up to 6th
Mark
grade. I
also
doubt
lets
they
them
let
out.
them out of school at 6th
Right.
grade to walk
Wegmans for
anywhere.
lunch.
Yeah,
It's up to
is
5th
it
grade, and
fifth grade?
they don't walk. The only kids you'll see walking out there are seniors at
I gotta get a
Penfield who
phone
have
call,
open
I
lunch.
know.
Because that's what we used to do.
Okay.
So when we have open lunch, we'd go up there and we'd sit at Harris
Or
Whalen
even
Park for
for-
30 minutes until we
Even
had to go back to
for
school.
park stuff that's
Yeah.
I
going
think
on.
4th of July, you'll see a
Yeah.
lot of traffic
Yeah.
through there.
Well, 4th of July, yeah, they're gonna be closed, I would hope.
That's a good point. Obviously, we'll get cross-access easements. They're coming back from preliminary final, but, we'll have to see stormwater at that point, grading. Doug asked, for, our requirements are for topo to show 100 feet onto the neighboring property, so we'll see what's going on the school's property, as well as to the property to the west, what the impact, that is. They'll have to get a grading release to put that parking in up to that point on the neighboring property.
Yeah, and if I remember right, there's actually a lot of trees back in there and some on the neighbor's property. And, grading might mean removing trees on their property too. So.
Yep, that's why we got to see a little bit more detail on that.
Yeah. Might not be easier.
We've asked, and we actually have, Jeff's working on
I don't know if you guys want to look at this.
elevation or profile of that road, because we did Ugia's property, so making sure we tie from here all the way down, we can kind of have a set elevation so each property doesn't dip and dive as we go across. We can have a set elevation for that road.
You want to see the details?
The snow storage is going to be right up against 441.
Yeah.
You're going to have a big pile of snow there. It's going to be ugly. I mean, Wegmans does it, so I don't know, but... And then in March, it's black, because it's got all the dirt in it.
And you'll have some space
The
on the north
condition of where we live.
Yeah,
some space on the north side towards the school, but that's only going to be a
It's 5 feet.
5-foot strip, so it's not going to be a lot of...
Is it shown where he's going to put the garbage totes?
That was something I was going to bring up.
He's got them down there with a... He's got just one return wall, but I think that still sees the visibility from...
Yeah, they need to be better enclosed.
Coming
You'll
from...
be able to see them from 441.
Heading
from
eastbound, you're going to
west
see it from
east,
441.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then from the neighboring properties.
I saw it.
Yeah,
Every day.
if we are going to ask them to land bank parking, maybe those two spaces right on the end would be good candidates, and then they can do a little more with the totes.
Because one of staff's comments is to extend, you need a little turnaround, because otherwise space one, you can't back out.
Right.
You need a little bit of a bump out on the end, at least you can kind of back your vehicle, turn, and then go back out. So, we
maybe-
leave those potentially as land bank spaces, and then if he needs them in the future,
Well,
they're approved, and he
you
can...
could even do space one as land bank and have a little turnout there, and then up by the road if.
A little bit more of separation between that and the drive.
Yeah, those two could go out, maybe.
Obviously, we'll ask for building materials and colors at preliminary final. They provided a very nice rendering of the building. We typically don't see it sketch. We'll ask for signage application in the next go-round. Stormwater, we'll obviously look at that with their submittal, and we'll have to do a SWIP preliminary final application as well.
They have curbs right along the building there. Is the road going to be curved?
I don't believe they're showing curbing on the road itself.
Do we want a curb?
I think we're looking to sheet that off to a swale on the north side,
Okay.
so we can kind of collect it there for each lot, and then kind of transmit it down. So we haven't required it, but if they were to go with that one space, it's not numbered, number next to 11. Obviously, you probably would want it curved or something if that ended up being a parking space to at least separate it from the access
Yeah,
drive.
right now it's paved, but not
It's not numbered, so that's
interesting.
some of the question is, do they need that, or are they just trying to show that to meet our standards? And AJ asked that question, so we'll support them to show what they really need, and we can land bank the rest if not necessary. So I need two actions. One, letter to the zoning board.
Send a letter to the zoning board. Somebody want to, Roseanne, you want to move that?
To make a motion to move, send a letter to the zoning board.
I'll second.
All right.
Hetzke.
Aye.
Bastian.
Aye.
Danicourt.
Aye.
Canower.
Aye.
McCord.
Aye.
Tidy.
Aye.
All right, Roseanne, you want to make a motion to
Send a letter to the...
send a letter?
Tally's going
to the
down,
applicant?
I'd like to make a motion to send a letter to the applicant.
I'll second.
All right.
Hetzke.
Aye.
Bastian.
Aye.
Danicourt.
Aye.
Canower.
Aye.
McCord.
Aye.
Tidy.
Aye.
Do you feel redeemed now?
No.
Take more than that.
Sending a letter is not the same as an approval.
Carrie stole the thunder.
It's like getting
Just a
right.
sketch plan.
Just kind of got
It doesn't have that much meat. watch where you walk in your yard.
Yeah.
Still.
I go out pretty early in the morning.
I love that dog. All right. Bayview Landing.
I've seen this one several times.
I had, you know, he had mentioned the pavers. I'm thinking those grass.
I think that's what he was talking about, is
pavers. That
big concrete that grass
with
can
the
grow
holes
up
in
through
them.
them. They have holes in them that.
Yeah, or even they have
The
them.
better ones now are, you don't even see concrete that
Plastic.
much anymore.
Yeah, like
Plastic.
polycarbonate or something.
They're
Yeah,
pla-
they're
plastic with.
They're heavy-duty plastic.
Yeah.
We used them out at RIT, and they work great.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go for
That
that.
might make the neighbors happy. I know they just don't want the look of.
Yeah,
And it's in their side yard. They don't
I mean,
want the
you
look
can
of asphalt.
have- you can have fire trucks and, I mean, big vehicles go over those things.
So it creates a visual roadway.
No.
No.
It
You don't
looks
see
like
a roadway,
grass.
but it is grass.
It'll look like grass.
And how would you know where it is?
Emergency vehicles know where to go?
Well,
You don't just know.
either
There will still be that chain.
railings, or you can do it.
You could do some split rail fence up through there or something to
Split
kind of
rail
delineate.
fence.
I'm just saying
something-
how they know where to go. If you don't see it.
Split rail, something to delineate the road with.
They'll
Yeah,
look-
something.
They'll look for the emergency vehicles that didn't stay on the road, on the other side, and they'll clear the, show them the path up through.
So that would not be plowed in the winter?
That's gonna be the question of the fire marshal. Typically, the fire marshal likes to see those areas plowed. So I think that might be one, I mean, it's not, I don't think it's plowed today, but that's what we had with Camden Park and Villas of East Hampton. They have a little chain between those, but that's something he goes out there and says, hey, you guys need to plow this and maintain this. This is your emergency access egress location. So that's something we'll need to work out with him is if it is plowed, if they went more with those concrete things. But I know in the summer, a lot of times those end up burning out the grass that's in the middle of it, and it just ends up being a dead
You know,
vegetation.
the thing
use
with the-
concrete. There's different ways to do it. You could, what we did at RIT was we actually put flush curb in. It's a little bit higher than the grass pavers. And so your blade rests on the curb, and you can clear it.
Get your height
But
set
it's
and then just
still
kinda
mostly
drain.
grass.
Okay, that's something we can take a look at.
What kind of a crash gate? I forgot to ask.
I mean, right now it has a chain on it with a lock. They're looking at it just as, I mean, it could be a two-flap gate, something. I think they're open to suggestions. Something so it's a visual barrier for somebody who doesn't decide to drive their car down it and say, hey, let's go this way, so it's a visual barrier. But it has the option that, I mean, they call it a crash gate. A fire truck could hit it and knock it open if need be. More often, they just either have a key to it. There's universal or bolt cutters. They just pop it and go through. So it's whether it's a chain, whether it's something more, you know, defined than that, but just something so it's a physical barrier so that people aren't using it as a cut through between Browncroft and Empire Boulevard or the residents, but it's there. And
Is it extended out to the side, like 20 or 30 feet, to prevent people from just going around it?
I'm sure they have enough rocks out there. They could taper something on either side, so it doesn't need to be look like a wall, but you could
Some
put
of those things that pop up when you know, when you
the
change
spike strips.
car,
Yeah.
there's-
Rip
so if
your
you back
tires
up,
to
it rips your
shreds.
tires apart.
Yeah.
In that case, it's always pointed up so you don't drive up and through.
But I'm sure you can put some, you know, rocks on either side and then have a chain in the middle so it
Broken glass.
defines the area.
You said they did the phase one environmental study. Did we see that from years ago?
We had that in the last application with the town board. We can stick that in the, you know, in the next applications that comes
Yeah,
in.
I'd like to
Phase
do
one
that.
is just they do visual assessments, they do some basic, you know, testing of the
Is this
materials
the
and
one they
areas.
had tested? They did some soil sampling, some core sampling.
Yeah. I don't think they've ever found anything other than C&D material. We've never seen anything as far as contaminated material out there, but you may have some, you know, some concrete or some construction.
Conservation Board
materials
found
in the
some drums there, but I can't remember if that was where
The drums, actually, if you look back at historical photos, were used to line the driveway just as a visual.
Okay.
So you look back, there's barrels out there that just went up, and then I think they just rusted over time. So I think the connotation got that there was barrels dumped out there, but we had a historical photo somewhere that Mr. Procor put out there. He just had the barrels and they just went up the side of the road just as would like road cones. So he left them out there. We can pull that up and put that in your next drop. But I saw, I don't know from what it was, the 80s or.
I'd like to take another look at that because depending on how you develop it, this could have little kids running around on the grass. And so you want to make sure, I mean, it's one thing if you're going to pave over it and put up storage buildings versus homes.
Sure.
So, okay.
Sure. Yep, we can put that, pull that dead out and put it in your.
What about the third speaker, the leach beds under, I think he was talking somewhat about the existing.
Yeah,
homes,
Mr.
right? Leaching.
Lawrence Sy, I know he spoke at the last hearing about, some leachate from existing septic systems. We do have a plan in place right now, and the town board is moving ahead with authorizing to start sewers within that whole area. So it'll be through
so all the houses up there would
Woodhaven
have,
and stuff would have new
From
sanitary sewer.
Browncroft all the way up.
All the way out Old Westfall. So that's a 2015 project for the town, is to put
Does it
sewers into there.
Great.
This
Does it
piece
flow north towards Empire?
No, it flows south towards Browncroft and then gets pumped from there down into the next to the rendering plant down there. There's actually, that's where the trunk line comes through. So pump down that way. This piece would drain down their property down to Empire Boulevard, and then there's a pump station just to the west of this piece that is the regional pump station for this area that then pumps back up the hill and goes up towards Plank Road. Yep, so White Village and all that comes down this way, and then it actually transfers back down past.
It comes over here. Actually comes down here.
Yep, goes down on Browncroft and then down below, and then it goes into the county's trunk line sewer. So all of this area here.
They can all drain south.
That's all going to drain south. I think there is some pump stations with it, but they're going to make it work. And then this piece is going to drain north, and then down to the pump station that's down in the bay.
On the short EAF, they indicated that there were archaeological features on this site.
I think the bluff off the end is probably what they're referencing on that, but I believe this is going to end up being a type 1 action based on being next to a park. Once you're next to a park, that lowers the standards for impacts, so they're going to have to at least go to a long form on this. So if we see a preliminary final application, you have to do a long form. Especially, we do have 4 EPODs on the site. There's water course, wetlands, woodland, and steep slopes, so they're going to have to do a lot more detail on the EPODs. Stormwater treatment, there's wetlands down below. They're going to have to look at working around those in the buffer areas. There's state and federal wetlands. So I think this is going to end up being a type 1 action just based on proximity to Monroe County Park, which is next door, and also the number of acres that they're developing.
So you're saying they're going to do an environmental impact study?
They're going to have to do a long form, and then that's going to be one thing this board's going to have to look at is what impacts are there as traffic and stormwater and everything else. So we start with the long form, and then as we get into this with submittals and see what the impacts there are and whether that's necessary or not. That's the one thing that they are proposing is to donate that land or take the units off of the end of that bluff. So just you can see off the end of that cul-de-sac. That's the one piece of property that actually is in the LaSalle's Landing District. So you look at our comments in PRC, so it basically says you can't have single-family homes in the LaSalle's Landing District. So that end of the street, they would have to have duplexes or quadplexes or something else on the end of that street.
Love that.
So they actually have gone to the town board, and between now and the preliminary final application, we'll have to get a determination from the town board that they're okay with transferring the number of units off the end of that piece down to the piece down below. So they're showing 33 units. That's based on the units up above. Town Law 278 says you can transfer units between 2 different zoning districts at the board's
discretion.
At the board having jurisdiction. So we'll need a determination from the town board that they're supportive of moving those out of LaSalle's Landing District into the R-120, and then this board can then move ahead if deemed appropriate for the 33 units down below. But at this point, I think, the neighbors have been supportive of taking those units out of there. You can't build single-family units, so you can't say, let's just put one nice house on that. You'd have to put in duplexes or something else. So LaSalle's Landing District does not allow single-family residential within it. We've walked the site, open space or some of the others. We've walked the property. There already are trails that tie into it. It seems like it's part of the park now. There's some beautiful views off the end of that if you walk
So are we
right off the
thinking
end, you
about
look out.
them dedicating that to the town as
Monroe County.
They've talked about dedicating to Monroe County. The last go-around, we had a preliminary conversation with Monroe County. They said they would have to do their due diligence to evaluate the property, make sure it's not contaminated or anything else, but they would consider taking ownership of that if that's the way this application went. That would tie into Lucian Warren Park is the piece that's directly to the west of that. So it directly abuts that piece and could just be merged in right with that.
So just
part of the
the
park.
2 parcels on top of the bluff?
Just the one piece on the bluff that goes out. This piece is dealing with the piece down below. So they were showing a number of units on top. So that's the piece on the bluff up above.
That doesn't show the existing property lines.
It doesn't. It shows 27 through 34. That's the property.
So
the number of units.
Where lots 1, 2, and 3 are down there, that's open space also.
Yes, on the
Who get
current
that?
plan. Right now, he's still planning on owning it. He may propose or come back with apartments.
Well,
He had an
that's-
apartment building in the future.
That was why I asked that question. If you're using that space for your conventional layout, and you're doing your town law, whatever it is,
If it is-
278.
If it is town law
then those
278, yes,
have
that is
to- has
permanently
to be open
restricted.
space,
Correct.
and then who takes charge of it? If he retains ownership of it, in 10 years he comes back, and when none of us are here, he'll use that for more
Oh, you'll still be there.
development.
EJ will be here.
I mean, if it goes under town law 278, you're correct. It would restrict the property from further development. We do map that. Within the apartment, we have a map on the wall that maps
Okay.
every town law 278. It maps every
Open space.
incentive zoning, open
Even though
space
they still own it.
property.
also on
Yep.
the final site
So it
plan.
restricts it, so we keep track of those just to make sure that that doesn't
Okay.
happen. The remaining parcel shows that for condominium building, that piece is not part of this application. We listed the address because this drive goes through it, just so it is affected, the access goes out there, but that's not part of what is the development piece, so that could be open for development of something else in the future. Is the board generally supportive of the cluster or using the town law 278?
I am.
It's the board's
It's a good application for it.
board supportive of the donation of that
Yes.
piece up above and to Monroe County if that's how it goes. And the board's supportive of keeping the connection to Woodhaven Drive at the end
Yeah.
for emergency purposes only.
Yeah, and
Emergency egress.
Looking at different options for.
do you know a brand or I know that
Presto.
I've picked up some of those
I'm sorry, you said Presto?
brochures.
Presto.
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 Thank you.
But there's
There's others, but
there's
this
other ones, yeah.
just to
gives them an idea of what
It's
we're
a start.
talking about. Because during the year, I mean, it'll look, you won't even know
Yeah.
unless you know.
The state DOT looked at this last time under the last development, but obviously we'll look for them for their input. They're gonna have to get a curb cut right with that. They're gonna have to deal with stormwater. They submitted some initial architectural designs. Any thoughts from the board on the architecture of the submitted
I liked them. I looked at them.
buildings? I know between now and any future
think they were-
application, I'd like
I
to get up
think
to
they're-
Chile and take a look at the development out there and what they submitted. So it's actually 2 stories on the uphill side. You're looking at, or excuse me, 2 stories on the downhill side. So you would see 2 stories on the lower level. So it's 1 story on the entrance and kind of 2 stories as you take advantage of the slope of the grade going down the hill.
So they've got a big development. How many did they say out in Charlotte?
I thought they said 100 units.
out.
Took out? I thought I wrote it down somewhere. I thought they said they
I
had
missed the number, you just said it was a successful development.
Yeah, I thought they said they had about 100 units on the other piece.
Yeah, you'd go out 490, get off at Chilai Center, go hang a left and you're right there.
I know the neighbors up above have concern about the emergency vehicles and access. I think AJ helped to clarify. Our biggest thing is more to get people out of there. If a tree happened to fall across, Browncroft, or a fire of a house over there, and they have to block it off, now all of a sudden, you have a whole neighborhood that's trapped. That gives them an access point to get out, more than trying to force emergency vehicles in there. If emergency vehicles are going to come off of Old Browncroft and enter over pavement, as often as they need be, but it's more to get people out if there is an accident or an ice storm or something that blocks them in there.
Something that could block a very long piece of road. A lot of people in it.
So it's a private road.
What?
But the
Development.
The units are rentals.
But it's gonna have an easement to the town for that whole,
We would take an emergency access easement over that whole road that
all the way up.
gives us the right to get people out. They would also memorialize the Wilbur Tract easement. Currently, Wilbur Tract has existed, probably as long as Penfield's been here. It doesn't have a formal access easement through there. They have access by rights of, historically being there, but we'll have them formalize that as well and, clean up that access point to get people in and out and keep Wilbur Tract having their access as they do today.
Speaking of that, did you want to, we didn't bring this up in the public hearing, but would you like to discuss the kind of upgrading whatever material they can in that road on Wilbur Tracks? We just drove down it a few weeks ago, and I tell you, the Chevy Chevy Impala doesn't like it.
Yeah, the staff has made the comments at least to do some upgrades to that portion of the road, at least, if they're out there with equipment, grade it out, put some stone in. Not saying they have to pave it all.
You're talking the entry,
Where this hand
They would-
is, and
oh, that whole area.
The gray shaded area, they're showing paved all the way out to the entrance, which
I'm
it's
surprised the neighbor didn't mention it if it's in that bad.
it's gravel.
it's big stones, it's gravel, it's got significant holes in it, but
Like I said, it's
drivable.
not a paved road.
But since it's on their property, however,
Today,
we made
but,
that
uh,
comment. And I just want to make the board aware of that.
Let's have them improve that. Obviously, they're gonna have to do due diligence, doing test holes out there, looking for, basements and, doing a geotech report to make sure that works.
Are you thinking you'd want that area paved or just made nicer gravel? Or
Like Mark was saying,
I think if they have
grading it
a grader out there, go out there and grade it out, make sure it drains well, put some stone down, roll it,
pack it down.
upgrade it so at least across their property it's been improved to a.
To make it safer.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll have some liability of people accessing through their property, as it is. So upgrading that, making that an improved access for those neighbors back there, I think is an improvement to them. And then paving the rest of the piece out, I think allows them greater access and accessibility as well.
Right.
As far as traffic and on Empire Boulevard, it's ultimately it's up to the state DOT. We've talked to them in the past about a traffic light. They've said, no, the numbers aren't there for a traffic light. We've talked about a roundabout. They said at roundabout, there's not enough space or, again, the traffic volume to necessitate it, and that was with the townhouse development that's there. So we'll wait to see what the state comes back with, but I don't expect them to have any. We're downgrading or lessening the impact of number of units, so I don't expect the state to have any significant changes to Empire that would.
Yeah, that's a shame, but
I think paving
there's
it.
nothing that we can do about that.
I think paving it, improving the
Except
access where it
advocate.
is, verifying the site distances that are there, if there's any, adjustments to, that might help, improve site distances either way. But I think having that paved so you can get in and out, readily, I think would be a help. But we'll look to the state and also the town engineer to take a look at that.
Okay.
So we'll look to send a sketch letter of general support for the project. utilizing Town Law 278. We'll work with the town board to formalize, transfer those number of units down below. And obviously, they got a lot of work to do with E-pods and stormwater traffic, the typical.
And preparing for type 1.
And then submission of a long form, and then we'll look at that more thoroughly once we get that, or if they decide to move ahead.
Any other comments? Somebody want to move to send a letter?
I think I already went.
So move.
Hetzke.
Aye.
Bastian.
Aye.
Danicourt.
Aye.
Canower.
Aye.
McCord.
Aye.
Height.
Aye.
Okay.
That wraps our hearings. We do have a couple of miscellaneous items. First is Hogan Road. This was a resub we did, it's probably about 2 years ago now. I think it was 2013.
Who was it? Hogan Road?
Maybe it's this year. Got it.
What was the date?
Oh, that's a lie. I lied.
Hogan Road, it's at the corner of Plank and Hogan. This was just basically a two-lot resub, taking out a property line that was signed by AJ. Oh, it was signed just this summer. Excuse me, on August 26th. It was signed. The county allows 60 days to file the map. They didn't file the map in the 60-day time frame, so we just need the board to reauthorize AJ to
I make a move
redate
to
the.
reauthorize AJ to sign it.
I'll second.
You did a lot of
Take a vote on that.
Did they have
You
a good
do?
excuse?
Yes.
Okay, what do we do?
So the Hogan Road re-subdivision.
Right.
If you want to call roll on the vote.
Bastian, Canower.
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
She was thinking about.
Yeah,
Showing she's
Hetzke.
missing right now. Aye.
Bastian.
Aye.
Danicourt.
Aye.
What am I doing?
Canower.
Aye.
McCord.
Aye.
Height.
Like, why? What am I doing?
It's weekend. She's
No,
not
I
tight.
put the map in there, but it's,
Oh, here it is.
that's why.
There you go.
Okay.
Alright.
That's what I was thinking about. I know I stuck it in there.
You just did this, right?
Yeah.
What's that?
I mean,
No
we have
wine,
this
there's no wine.
So do they know they have to file it now?
I hope so.
How many changes do you got?
They did decide to file it before.
One.
Next one is Grossman's on Route 250. He is proposing he has two lots today. His property goes in, he has the business owns the majority of the property around the outside. It's kind of a little hard to see, maybe it's highlighted. Leave it highlighted.
This is what he's got.
So today, there's an access drive that comes in and his house is on looks like a kind of a lollipop in the middle. It's with
This
his
is the
house and his
log cabin
property.
that sits back in there?
That's his home. The business portion is in the front. He's proposing and would like a resub to where Zach is highlighting the dark area to define the business areas, a 5-acre piece on the southeast corner, and then the remainder would now be into the single-family residential portion of it. The only issue that we have as staff is there's one existing building right here that is closer than setbacks allowed to the new property line. Actually, there is an existing access or property line today. They're planning on relocating it. It's just not being relocated at this time. They're going to do it over the next month or two. So we've talked to him about taking a dollar amount retainage that would ensure that it gets relocated. So the town engineer would hold a letter of credit ensuring that it gets relocated. If it doesn't, then we could relocate it for him. So it's a matter of 2 lots today, 2 lots tomorrow. Not creating a subdivision, so we don't need a public hearing for that. It's just a reallocation of what the property lines are. Everything
What are those
else.
structures down there in the bottom?
Those are existing
Greenhouses?
greenhouses in the back. He's proposing to leave those as they are. This building here is where that shed from up here is being relocated down below.
And those greenhouses would become part of his, not part of the business property?
They'd be on his property.
What's the
He's the owner.
zoning of that?
R1.
Rural residential.
Is it
RA2.
Oh, very good.
Yes,
So that
RA2.
business is under conditional use?
No, it's under ag and markets. So ag and
Okay.
markets allows a farm market, so he's under the farm market.
So it's okay with the greenhouses on his personal property?
Yeah.
Okay.
And how about that whole front piece to the north is a sales lot for his trees?
And it can
So
remain on his,
the business would be split between the two lots.
yeah.
That's okay? Okay.
It's still, I mean, you can sell, anybody's residential lot, you can sell products from your property as an under ag and markets law. So if you want to go out and sell vegetables in your front yard or have it, so if he has a tree sale there, it doesn't matter if it's.
He just has to stop selling the jewelry and purses and stuff.
So we need
So the whole
if the board's comfortable, we need a motion to have, authorize the chairman to sign the resub map.
I'll make a motion to authorize the signature of that.
I'll second.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Bastian,
Aye.
Danicourt,
Aye.
Canower,
Aye.
McCord,
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye.
Don't have an electronic for this, right?
I don't think so. This next one I'll put up on the wall. Another resub map.
Only re-sign, this is the second resub.
Oh.
I thought you lose.
Keep track of that. Count to 5.
So this is Penfield Road out towards the county line, Carter Road. Currently 2 lots today, 1 lot being here, other lot being here. This property owner, John Shalacy, is looking to buy the back half, the majority of this parcel over on this side. So again, 2 lots today, 2 lots tomorrow. This would remain as a 7.4 acre parcel. This would now become a 36.4 acre parcel. I think we saw this in the past. This piece was carved off of this James Shalacy property, so he's just acquiring more property for himself with this application. So again, it would just be, the board's comfortable with
How many
change.
structures on lot 1?
Lot 1 has a house and existing barn, but he has more than 5 acres, so it's still okay with our code on that. Doesn't change the setbacks to those property lines. And then Lot 2 has just an existing 2-story house on it. So this dotted line here is the existing property line that would go away, and then this would be the new.
So you got a
parcel.
nice driveway and beautiful house up there.
Yep. So he's just buying some additional land from his neighbor.
What's the road on the, Carter?
This is Carter here. There'll be smaller single-family homes on frontage of Carter's, just kind of back of those. And then just east on Penfield Road, south side.
Where's the church?
The church is just over here. So no barn here. I think the church is this next person.
Actually, it might be closer to the corner.
Oh, you're right. East Penfield Baptist Church is right here.
Okay.
I'm thinking, yeah, Baptist Church is right here on the corner. It's just a piece next to that.
So if there are any issues?
Anybody have a problem with it?
I don't.
I'm good with it. Can we entertain a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, I'll make that motion to approve.
Second.
This one's for real.
It's a real one.
Now, 2 motions to approve as a subdivision, a resub, and 1 to send a letter to Zaggy for more approval.
Still not there.
Still not there yet?
Ledger out too, didn't he?
Terry, you still there?
Who did the second?
McCord,
Yeah.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Bastian,
Aye.
Danicourt,
Aye.
Canower,
Aye.
McCord,
Aye.
Aye.
Tidings. All right.
One more.
Okay.
No?
You do that.
Back
Did
in
it?
December?
Oh yeah, we can talk about December.
In the,
We have one application coming up in
I
December.
just printed that for you guys because we approved it last time. So I have a hard copy.
So, yeah, Zach handed out our 2015 calendar. You guys accepted.
Official.
We'll put that online. And then this is the December application, Zach, if you want to give an overview.
Sure. This is 1700 Penfield Road. It's a Penfield Place nursing home. They're looking to do a nearly double the size expansion to the property.
so So this is behind the funeral home?
Yes.
Yes.
Knowlton's, it's kind of up the hill in the back.
Yep, and the reason they're asking for it is they're not looking to add many beds, but they are currently running 2 people to a room type situation. They're looking to come up to the new industry standard to have 1 occupant, 1 room, so have single beds throughout the facility. So they've come to us with a sketch plan to create this addition. Along here, we've already started reviewing this as staff, starting to generate PRC comments, and it's coming to us as a sketch plan. We're looking at they have a rear behind their property. They actually own a small piece that's landlocked right now that has kind of a stormwater detention area. It's operating fine, but we're probably going to look and see if we can subdivide that back in here, or at least get a formalized access easement to it through the property. But we talked about this as staff, everything's working okay. We'd like to get that access to it.
What about fire truck access around the building?
That's something the fire marshal's gonna have to
something
look
they're
at,
gonna
is
have to
whether he's good with 2-sided access or he needs additional access to it. I'm not sure what they're doing with sprinklers yet.
We haven't talked about that. We haven't had many details from them.
Going from a 48-bed facility to a 60-bed facility. Even with that expansion, as Zach said, they're looking to split from being 2-person per room to 1-person per room. So even with that much of an addition, it's only a 12-bed increase internally, just because they're spreading people out more.
So
Is that Howitt still on that, Howitt Nursing Home? Who owns that?
Yes. I believe
Howitt
they-
still owns it?
Yes.
Is it just a basic nursing home, or is it some kind of special care?
I believe it also has like memory care in there as well.
They do a little more
Okay.
advanced care than just
So I think it's
nursing and
nursing,
assisted living.
so it's an above and assisted living, like we have Heathwood, it's independent living, and with,
Right.
with
This
some
is more
assistance,
care.
this is more of a true nursing home, and then I believe they also have some memory care facilities in there as well.
Access to this building, I think the fire marshal or someone was talking about this building is actually, you kind of have to get buzzed in, buzzed out to this one, so they do have that advanced care that they provide. Mainly for the memory loss part. Wanderers.
So this is our only application for December. At this point, we'll be able to miscellaneous items, but this will be our public hearing for that.
Okay. Good.
That's it?
Anything else?
That's it.
All right. We will adjourn. Have a good Thanksgiving, everybody. See you in a month.
So we have one meeting in January?